Wednesday, Northridge. I wanted to talk to you today briefly about what I read in Psalm 142. It says in verse 1, David writing, I cry out to the Lord with my voice. With my voice to the Lord I make my supplication. I pour out my complaint before him. I declare before him my trouble. So much more that we're going to cover here in just a second in this video, in this text. But what I found most interesting was David used the word complaint as he was crying out to the Lord. I pour out my complaint. And I thought, wow, I thought God hated it when we complained. I tend to complain sometimes. So I got to looking back at Numbers chapter 11 and verse 1. In that verse, it says, now when the people complained, it displeased the Lord, for the Lord heard it, and his anger was aroused. So the fire of the Lord burned among them and consumed some in the outskirts of the camp. I don't think God likes complaining. In fact, as I look at it, I think he hates complaining a lot. And the children of Israel did that right from the get-go as they were being delivered out of Egypt. But then here you have David in Psalm 142 saying, I pour out my complaint. Well, it's one of those things about words mean everything. In the first instance, the Hebrew word that's used in Numbers chapter 11 and verse 1, where the children of Israel complain to the Lord, is, and it sounds funny, it's alif nunu. That's the name of the word, but it means to complain, to express complaints, to be discontent, to have displeasure or unhappiness, and in some cases could be of a legal nature. So the very thing that Israel were doing was not only complaining, they actually thought, I think I'd like to sue God for giving us this hard time. So for them, the complaints of Israel were proof of national rebelliousness and unbelief. The text, as it's translated sort of in a more literal sense, could feel this way. And so the people became like those murmuring evil in the ears of Yahweh. God has promised goodness and blessing, but the people responded with rebellious complaints. And clearly that's not what David is doing. Clearly David is expressing, because in his use of the word complain, it can sometimes be translated meditate, or, my favorite, to pray. I offered my prayer. It kind of means all of those things, but it's seha is how you say that word in Hebrew. And it's an expression of grievance or resentment, especially one that assumes blame. So David was not blaming God. He was expressing his grievance. He was praying. He was thinking on it. Spurgeon comments on this by saying, we may complain to God, but not of God. And there's clearly a difference between what David did complaining to God, but he wasn't complaining of God like the nation of Israel was back in Numbers chapter 11 and verse 1. And then interestingly enough, Albert Barnes in his commentary says that the word complaint does not express the idea. The meaning is not that he complained of God or of man, but that his mind meditated on his condition. He was full of care and of anxiety, and he went and poured it out freely before God. So, to that end then, we see that David's complaint was really an expression of the need of his heart, and we are told to bring our complaints in that sense before God, to say, God, I don't blame you. I'm asking you to help me. Because if we read on, it says in verse 3, when my spirit was overwhelmed within me, then you knew my path in the way in which I walk. They have set secretly snares for me. Look on my right hand and see, for there is no one who acknowledges me. Refuge has failed me. No one cares for my soul. So David was in deep constraint of heart here, but he says in verse 5, I cried out to you, O Lord. I said, you are my refuge, my portion in the land of the living. Attend to my cry. That means be attentive to me. Attend to my cry, for I am brought very low. Deliver me from my persecutors, for they are stronger than I. Bring my soul out of prison, that I may praise your name. The righteousness shall surround me, for you shall deal bountifully with me. Now back to that word seha in the Hebrew. the word complain or meditate or pray, it also has connotations of praise to it. And whenever we come to God with anything that's just really pressing in on us, there's always going to be praise result from it. Just like when God said, or when David said of God, "For you shall deal bountifully with me." So keep that in mind as you go through the rest of this week. And remember, there's not one single thing happening to you that God isn't big enough or has been in front of in your life to fix. All right. See you guys soon. Bye.